Thank you, everyone, so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to learn more about dyslexia. Dyslexia is becoming, it's been a very hot topic in the past few years. Several states have passed legislation with screening requirements, and there's good reasons for the focus on dyslexia because research is coming out that shows that students that are identified earlier have a better opportunity to learn some different ways of learning to read that can mediate the risk of having dyslexia. So let's just start out and find out more about what dyslexia is. It's a reading disability that's neurobiological in origin. That means it's in the brain. There's fMRI studies that show that there's different brain activity during reading between people with dyslexia and people who do not have dyslexia. It does occur in all languages. It's in Japanese, in Chinese, in Hungarian, and in English, Spanish. And it occurs in all writing systems as well. But some of the core dysfunctions are in phonemic awareness and also the decoding abilities. And so phonemic awareness is the ability to hear all of the different sounds that are in a word. So say the word phonemic, for example, it's the ability to hear the O, all of the different sounds that are in the words. So that's what dyslexia is. Prevalency rates differ between different languages. It's more common in languages such as English, which are more difficult to learn how to read in because it's less phonetic. It's less common in languages such as Spanish and Italian that are more phonetic. Next slide, please. Okay, so how does the brain look different in people with and without dyslexia? So on the left side of the screen, you'll see the brain of a reader without dyslexia. So in the front of the brain with the articulation and word analysis, there is some activity there, but there's more activity in other areas of the brain closer to the ear for phonemic awareness and also integration between the words and how they look. The brain on the right shows the brain activity of a reader with dyslexia. And so that reader has overactivated in the articulation and word analysis part of the brain because the other parts of the brain are underactivated. A lot of dyslexia screeners include a rapid naming assessment. And rapid naming is just the ability to quickly identify, call out the names of objects or letters or numbers. Rapid naming is thought just to capture that very complex process that goes on within the brain whenever we're engaging in any kind of literacy activities. And so this is why RAN is sensitive as a risk factor for dyslexia. Although the research shows that intervention in RAN, so if you have a child that is not doing as well with RAN and you intervene for it, that does not necessarily help their reading. So it's more of a red flag that goes on. So what does it look like in the elementary school classroom? So in the preschool years, these children will have trouble with rhyming. They'll have trouble with Jack and Jill go up the hill. They won't be able to recognize the rhyming patterns. They have difficulties learning the alphabet. And this is the time when teachers start teaching them how to write their names, and they have trouble with writing their name, or they might misspell their name. Also, if they have a sibling or a parent with dyslexia, that is also a red flag because it is heritable. There is some research that has identified some chromosomes that indicate a higher risk for dyslexia. So that's another red flag. What does it look like in the kindergarten and first grade classroom? This is when their trouble with phonemic awareness becomes more visible and they have difficulty recognizing the sounds. And it's also associated with that is they continue to struggle with the alphabet knowledge, remembering the letters, remembering which sounds go with which letters, which combinations of sounds go together. And they'll get their sounds and letters mixed up, especially if they look similar, such as P, B, and D. And in phonics, this is where they're struggling with even simple words such as dog or jam or bed that just have a few sounds going together to combine the word. These students, they will avoid reading tasks. They will let anybody else read besides them, or they complain that reading is hard and they don't want to do it. And when they do read, they have an over-reliance on picture cues. They might say, you know, puppy instead of dog because it looks like a puppy on the page. Or if they have that they say kitty instead of cat and there's a picture of a cat. So that's another red flag. Another red flag is if they're referred for retention, especially in kindergarten. And sometimes the teachers will want to refer them for retention because they think, well, the student just needs more time. And so that can be indicated by some of their strengths. So some of the strengths that these students will have, especially in their early vocabulary, will be as good as or better than typically developing readers. They develop some of these strengths in order to mediate what's going on. They tend to have very good listening comprehension skills. They might have very good visual spatial skills. And so a teacher might look at these students and say, well, gosh, you know, they've got a really good vocabulary and they listen well, but they're struggling with reading. Maybe they just need more time. And actually the research shows that's the worst intervention that we can do for these students without changing how reading is taught to them.